Well, hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Monday Morning Fighter podcast. My name is Castor Weinstein. I will be your host for today, this evening, this morning, whenever you are watching this around the world, throughout the United States. Let's be honest, no one's watching. But, you know, just getting into, I haven't been on this podcast for a while, obviously. I'm not really going to go into that. I was looking for a record sign to put on my door and really just couldn't find one. Just kidding on that one. But let's actually start the show today, and let's start it off with a strong point, the BJ Penn arrest. I'm not talking about UFC 257 just yet. We'll put that on the shelf for 1 second. But we have a BJ Penn arrest again happening. Apparently, he was arrested for, I believe it was a suspected DUI, and then he got into a heated altercation with cops, which was, of course, recorded. And, I mean, you really can't let yourself be recorded in those kind of situations. Or, no, you can't let yourself not be recorded. Jesus, what am I saying? You cannot let yourself be put in that kind of situation as a public figure. And BJ Penn has done this multiple times now. He's obviously, a UFC vet, but he's one of the greatest of all time until he apparently fell out of his prime kind of abruptly against John Fitch. I mean, he still looked like a good fighter in that one. It was kind of the Nick Diaz fight that started his slide of, I believe it was 5 losses in a row. It might have been more, it might have been less. But, he's lost every fight since he's fought against John Fitch. That was my basic point in that one. And honestly, it looked like he never should have started fighting again. I believe that this strong skid in his personal life seems to be maybe influenced or caused by even by his fighting skid. And thankfully, Dana actually took him out of the octagon and told him, you're not fighting anymore. You're not going to be doing this. Like I said before, this is only one of many incidents involving BJ Penn and the police, including a kind of hilarious street fight that really all these memes about BJ Penn being out of the octagon and Dana White not giving him a fight were kind of born out of. I've seen a lot of great ones. Unfortunately, I probably won't have any on the screen because I can't surf Instagram on this computer. But, just wrapping up the whole BJ Penn stuff, it's hard whenever you have a former UFC great or a former fighting great in general, just a former great person that was known for something. It is extremely tough to see them go down a road such as this because BJ Penn has legitimately now, dismissing all the comedy and everything that I've been doing, BJ Penn has legitimately been in trouble with the police way too much, and it is starting to affect how people see him as a fighter. Yes, his losses did that, and him sort of, what's the right word for it? Just losing in general. I guess him losing in general started to bring a lot of luster to his name, or not luster, started to bring a lot of dirt on his name that he wasn't a good fighter anymore and that he never really should have been considered with one of the best. But, man, that guy scrapped it up with Matt Hughes, and them two got in some great fights, and I just really wanted to see him sort of succeed inside and outside the octagon because from all reports, from what I've heard, out of San Diego, I believe it is, or it might be Riverside, but, San Diego where he started jiu-jitsu and everything, is that he was a fantastic kid. And, at 18, you have your black belt. It doesn't mean you're a great person if you're a black belt, obviously, but a kid to get his black belt at 18, he would have had to be in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I know BJ Penn wasn't because he got it in 2 years, but he would have had to be in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a long time to learn the tenets and learn the codes and, everything. Not like there's codes to Jiu-Jitsu. What am I even saying? It sounds like I'm an amateur. I mean, I'm a white belt. Blue belt, no gi. Don't knock me on that one. But, he sort of earned all of his stuff too quickly, it feels like, and that may be what's perpetuating this next skid that he's about to go into in his life. And thankfully, as I said before, Dana stopped him fighting, so I don't think, especially after this instance, we have to worry about him fighting in any more organizations. I don't think anyone wants to touch him. Despite the name, BJ Penn, still a great name, but I just don't think that anyone wants him fighting for them anymore after this point, obviously. So now we're going to move on to UFC 257. Obviously, the first thing I'm going to say is Conor and Dustin. Like, that was a wow moment. What else can I say? I personally, you can tell by how slow I'm going, I'm still taking it in, and I'm even recording this podcast late. So I should have more of a feeling of what I want to feel and what I want to convey, but I just don't. You never expected to see Conor McGregor dusted like that, but when I tell you I could feel it coming, this was not, Dustin started to wail on him and I could see the KO in Dustin's eyes and everything, and McGregor looked done. I'm not saying that. I'm saying fight week was a very weird week. In Abu Dhabi, without fans, it kind of seemed like we were getting some lesser fights. Not necessarily lesser fights. You had Ferguson Gaethje, which was fantastic. You had a bunch of great fights, and all of them were fantastic, and you could hear the coaches, and it was great. But a Conor McGregor fight does not beget no fans. And I know that there weren't any fans, but there were still some present. It just felt so weird, all the coronavirus safety tips, all the, lack of fans at probably media events and everything, the lack of real, panache or something. I don't even know what the fuck to call it. But the lack of something great in that fight week and the lack of something great from all of these weeks, the feeling that you had leading up to it was just not the same that I have had in previous years while watching the UFC. And I think it took Conor fighting, and Conor's a real crowd fighter, but it took Conor fighting for me to really look at that and notice it, and notice that it's been fantastic to hear the coaches. It's been fantastic to watch the fighters and truly get to hear everything that they go through, hear how fucking hard the UFC mats are, because apparently I didn't know how hard they were. I've been told how hard they are, but I've never actually gotten the chance to go on a UFC octagon. I've gone on a fake one for a photo one time while I was in Vegas with my dad. That was a great time. But other than that, I really have never been in a UFC octagon. I've only been on jiu-jitsu and wrestling mats, and they don't feel like what that shit sounds like. It sounds like a pro wrestling ring while you're up there, the canvas. But, getting on a little past that, I think Poirier had an interview. It might have been post-fight in the hallway while he was talking to reporters. Might have been sometime else. But he had a great point in one of his interviews that he didn't feel the McGregor aura. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that not many people did. When I was talking about why I felt like it was a weird week and why Fight Island feels very weird, it does. And, you kind of saw the McGregor aura get taken down a bit because the contributors to the McGregor aura in itself are fans and all the hype that he gets to generate throughout a fight. But all throughout this process, Conor has not gotten to be in front of people. Sure, he might have generated some social media hype, yada yada, but that was just not the kind of thing that I, as a longtime UFC fan, as someone that saw the rise of Conor McGregor, that was a McGregor fan when I was growing up, when I was, probably, 14 years old when I saw his first fight. I've been a UFC fan for a hot minute, and I remember Conor coming in. I remember the rise. The crowd is an integral part of Conor McGregor. And, honestly, the mob of followers is his contributing factor to that aura. It's the tangible thing that you see while you're in the octagon, because you can have all the confidence in the world. You can be as scary as a motherfucker. Doesn't matter for shit, because sometimes the other guy in that octagon will not see it inside of you. He will not see that confidence. You might when you got a Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler saw that confidence this weekend on Saturday. But I did not see the confidence with Conor. Part of it, most likely him trying to be a boxer. That was another part of it. He tried to show off his skills for Manny Pacquiao and everything. But one, not him. Two, not him. And three, that's not him. So I feel like the crowd, the fighting style, there were a lot of different factors, but that Conor McGregor aura, I believe that we can all agree, was not there in general. It just didn't feel the same, even with significantly more fans than had been allowed previously. I believe if you have a huge arena in Vegas and you allow, a couple fans, that would be fun. But other than that, what's next for both of these fighters? don't know exactly. Conor really feels like if he wants to stay in the UFC, and John Kavanagh brought this up in an interview that he had before, or after the fight, I mean, when he talked about Conor, possibly drifting into boxing or whatever, that's cool, man. Do whatever discipline you want to do. Do whatever you really want to do and whatever you think is best for you, whatever makes you happy, whatever brings you the accomplishment that you want in the future. Great. Go out and get it. But if you want to stay in the UFC, you have to become the Conor McGregor of old. And if he rededicates himself to MMA training and, on top of that, trying to stay in an MMA style as opposed to that weird, wacky boxing style that we saw, that allows for leg kicks and most likely some nicely timed takedowns, as we saw with Poirier. It allows for a lot of that stuff. It might improve your hand usage and your striking, but your kicks are significantly limited. The amount of creativity that you get to use is significantly limited. So if Conor does all of that, if he does all of that I just went on that tangent for, then I feel as though a Dustin rematch is in order. Because I think that you can sell it as an I'm a different fighter fight, as a, we're going to Vegas this time, it's going to be different, screw Fight Island kind of story. I feel like you can get behind this. International Fight Week, obviously, because I think that's the date that Conor is looking for right now. If you can sell that, and I believe you can say the true Conor McGregor is coming. You can say Joe Rogan is going to commentate. You can have Joe Rogan cut the goddamn promo for all I care. But it really takes Conor to commit. And if he commits, then I can see that fight happening. And I can see that fight being a fucking barn burner that, again, probably ends in the second or third round. That McGregor has already come out as a slight favorite if the fight does get booked by a lot of sports books. So I will obviously say it would be either man's fight, but if it ended in the first 3 rounds, I would assume that it's going to be Conor's game if he is feeling really juiced up and, MMA-centric as opposed to boxing-centric and trying to show people what he knows as a boxer. Because this is the UFC. We don't care about what you do as a boxer. We don't care. And I'm saying the royal we. Obviously, I'm not a part of the UFC. I wish I was. But, we as UFC fans, I should say, do not care that you want to show off boxing, that you want to impress Manny Pacquiao. That night, apparently, you were trying to impress Khabib. You were probably trying to impress Dustin Poirier. You were trying to impress the world, and we all know it. So get back in that gym, get an MMA focus, and then come back to MMA. Because if you want to focus on boxing, focus on boxing. Go do you, Conor. Go do you. But if you want to focus on MMA, get in there, get a Dustin rematch for the vacant title after they strip Khabib, because that motherfucker ain't coming back. We all know it. But get in there and become the true Conor McGregor as we all know you. As, I should say, fans of the sport before 2014 know you. I think, is that when he came in? No, 2013? I think it might be 2013. I'm not looking right now because I don't want to flood this with the sounds of my mechanical keyboard just typing. The next possible fight that I could see, could he come back and fight Michael Chandler? Yes. I mean, that's just kind of an obvious one for me. I'd want to see that, and I'd be very excited in seeing that if Dustin doesn't fight Conor again, and Conor doesn't fight Dustin again, and, some random shit happens where one guy maybe has, like, an undisclosed injury that he gets surgery for or something in that time. Mostly talking about Poirier on that one. But if for some reason neither of them want to do a rematch, and they said that they do, but if for some reason a rematch doesn't happen, Michael Chandler cut a promo inside the octagon calling out Khabib, Conor McGregor. I don't remember if he called out anyone else. I didn't rewatch the promo after, I wrote this script or I should say talking points for this one. But could Conor come back and fight Michael Chandler during International Fight Week if Vegas allows all vaccinated people within that city into that goddamn arena, and they do health checks as they should and require masks? I can see the aura of Conor McGregor coming back. It can come back in a big way against Michael Chandler because of the fact, I mean, Michael Chandler can now cut an easy UFC promo with that goddamn highlight reel knockout of Dan Hooker, who not supposedly, he is a fantastic striker, but supposedly said that he would piece up Michael Chandler, that he would break the UFC's new toy. All these different things that he was saying to hype up the fight fell flat, got knocked out in the first round. Love Dan Hooker, but goddamn, you can't be saying that if you are going to get slapped by a kid from Mizzou that wrestled at Mizzou, that was a walk-on at Mizzou, who is known as a wrestler and has really improved his striking game. I can see Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor becoming insane. And just, everything that I said before on Conor's MMA ability and Conor becoming the true McGregor again, that would also need to happen. I believe he would also have to probably insult Michael Chandler, which he could do very easily. It'd be pretty funny to see Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler go in a pre-fight presser, to say the least. I would fucking love it, and I think that we would get more of old McGregor cutting promos, probably not as much trying to cut deep like he did in the Floyd and Khabib stuff, because he seems like he fell off a deep end during those pressers, but also not the respect that he showed Cowboy and Dustin. Don't get me wrong, good stuff. Like that he showed respect. Just, not too much, not all that. It's great to see that he's a dad and everything, but also just talking about business side and like entertainment and that sort of side of things, I would have liked more sort of bad guy stuff, but I know that he was really trying to respect his opponents there. I do think if you give him a guy with one fight in the UFC, that he would tear him to shreds in a presser, and that would be kind of fucking hilarious, not gonna lie. But also, Michael Chandler does have the pedigree, the skill level, and everything like that to back up his ability to fight Conor McGregor. He's also just called out Conor McGregor. I do want to see that fight happening. Very much so. An underrated matchup that I feel like many people are not talking about because I have not seen it on Instagram or Twitter very much is the potential for Tony Ferguson to fight Conor. Honestly, we've been waiting for the Tony Khabib fight for a while, but we've also been waiting for a Tony Conor fight for a while because they've had bad blood. Both these guys are coming off of losses, yet they are insanely entertaining fighters, and they are very, very marketable, very huge for the UFC. I'm about to do a video on that pretty soon about the marketability of fighters and how the UFC sees them, and why, we can't get a $59.99 pay-per-view anymore, why it's $69.99. Nice. Dana knows what's up. But with these being two entertaining fighters, two marketable fighters, I can easily see that headlining a pay-per-view. I have no clue and have done no research on Tony Ferguson's health at the current moment. And that is my bad. I must say, it really is. But, can't you just see him going in that octagon and fucking it up? I can, for sure. Oh, I am not on this Google Doc. There we go. And for Dustin, I mean, if it's not McGregor, like I said before, then it's pretty obviously either Charles Oliveira or Nate Diaz. Thank God weed's legal in the UFC again, boys. I feel like he would give the kid a shot if that ever became for the vacated belt, Poirier, Oliveira. I actually think Oliveira is older than Dustin Poirier, so that might have been just weird to call him a kid. Let's move on to Chandler v. Hooker. MMA Junkie recently ran an article on Chandler's post-fight interview and called it Ric Flair styled. I sort of agree, but I have some notes. It is more like a pro wrestling promo than actually being Ric Flair. Ric Flair has a couple nuances and shit that he does in his act that I really didn't see with Michael Chandler, but Michael Chandler said that it was inspired by Ric Flair, so I guess you got to give it to him on that one. I didn't see enough wide eyes, not nearly enough running out of breath for my liking, though I would imagine it's hard to do those kinds of things after actually fighting someone and actually knocking someone out, so I understand on that. But talking about knockouts, my God, that shot from Chandler. The man looked like he was in his bag the entire night. Granted, only one round. No possibility to show off the ground game, as I'm sure he would have in the later rounds, but god damn, that was a nice striking display. And honestly, this may sound like recency bias or hype, but I think he is the best shot to fight Khabib next. Not he has the best shot to fight him next, but I think he would be the best potential matchup out of all of these lightweights, even though I do think Khabib is going to stay retired. But I believe that Michael Chandler would be the best matchup among these lightweights. It's pretty funny that Dustin Poirier does not want to give Michael Chandler a shot because he just knocked the fuck out of Dan Hooker, who Dustin Poirier just almost lost to in a striking war. And, you know, if you don't want to give the man a shot just because he's coming in from Bellator and he has hype, then you're a fucking dick, Dustin. I can't imagine a fight between them. That would be very entertaining. That would be very fun. You know, lots of wrestling and striking, full MMA style mixed up together. But Dustin just doesn't want to do it. Mike also did not call out Dustin in his post-fight promo, so that might be a hang-up for Dustin. You know, he didn't get called out. He feels slighted, probably. Just kidding on that one. But that's going to be the end of this podcast. Fortunately, I have to cut it short just because this is my first one back, and I really feel like just getting it right in the editing process, so I'm going to make it as easy as possible on myself. I'll see you guys next Monday for the Monday Morning Fighter podcast. Peace.